Let me honor your death wish.
Alright, what is up guys, it's Rhoku back with more League content, and today we have a very nice video. We have our Season 11 Darius guide. This is basically the updated version of my, of the most complete Darius guide video I made last season, but for Season 11. And yeah, this video is going to have everything you need to know in order to play Darius to the maximum level, essentially, to basically get that Season 11 Stridebreaker freeload, because Stridebreaker is an amazing item, so we gotta abuse it, get our high ranks, and basically crush Season 11. And in order to help you do that, I have this video right here. Now, one key difference is that my other videos are basically for more experienced Darius players, right? I basically made those videos for players who played Darius a bit already, but just needed some guidance to improve, right? They're hard stuck, they don't know what they're doing wrong. I made those videos for those kinds of people, right? Now, this video is going to be helpful to those guys as well. This video is also going to be helpful to the complete beginner Darius players, right? Players who've never even played Darius before, or only played him 10 games, who need help transitioning into a Darius main. So this video is going to be more generally applicable and more generally useful. Another thing to note is that multiple times throughout a video, I'm going to be explaining concepts briefly. For example, when I go through the runes or items, I'm going to be trying to explain everything you need in as short a time as possible, because I've basically made videos for each of these things that are 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes long. So I'll be linking those videos throughout this video, so if you have any questions about a topic, or if you're confused about a topic, you can just go view the specific video that focuses on one of these sections, right? And those videos are super detailed. It's actually a fault of mine because I make my videos way too long and way too detailed. But if you want some in-depth explanation to really understand the grasp some of these concepts, then I'll be linking those videos in the cards somewhere on the screen, right? This video is going to be a bit more, a bit more light to understand and not just a brain blast of information. So please comment, and subscribe. By the way, I will be making this video timestamped, so try to watch it on YouTube so that you can basically get to the portions of the video that you're interested in, right? So if you just want to see the runes, go to the runes, just the items, etc, etc. Anyway, without further ado, comment, and subscribe, and let's just get right into the video. Okay, so the first thing we're going to actually start out with is Darius's abilities. Now, I know that some of you might be already proficient with his abilities, but because this is a more beginner-friendly video, I'm going to go through all the abilities and also go through some of the tips and tricks on how we can use them effectively, right? So let's just get into it. First things first, the max order. We're going to be putting our points into ultimate first, obviously, so whenever you can, put a point into ultimate. Then we max Q first, followed by E, and then W, right? Now, some people like maxing W first, W before E, and those people are wrong. Always max E second. Let's just start with the abilities. The simplest thing that can be explained is his W, but we're going to go through, from left to right to basically give you an idea of, to basically stay uniform, I guess. His passive is Hemorrhage. So every time you damage a champion with the blade of your axe, so the outer edge of your Q, your W, your ult, you apply a stack of bleed. So these things float around champions, and you can also see them an effect here, right? You can do this 5 times. You can put up to 5 stacks onto a champion. And when you get 5 stacks on anybody, you activate your passive Noxian Might. What is Noxian Might? Noxian Might is basically a passive where if you get it, it gives you, it says in the description there, 105 attack damage. The second you get that 5th stack, you get 105 attack damage. And on top of that, instead of doing 1 stack per attack, you instantly apply 5 stacks. So let me just show you in practice. So with 5 stacks on this guy, keep in mind on this is the Conqueror, by the way, we get 100 damage, right? And instead of doing these stacks one by one again, we can apply it with just one attack. So they get instantly 5 stacks. So the general idea is to get 5 stacks on one person, right? I just did a combo there to quickly get it. And then if you have a bunch of people, you want to get stacks on them with your Q, right? So let's say you got this, and you can use your Q to apply stacks on multiple people. So yeah. Speaking of which, our Q. So what is our Q? Our Q is our main trading tool, and landing the Q determines if the Darius player is good or bad, right? Good players will usually land this, and bad Darius players will just mess it up, right? So what is the ability, right? After pressing Q, Darius raises his axe and spins it around in a circle. And there are 2 sections to this circle, the outer edge and the inner edge, right? Inner end. If you're hit by the outer end, it does its maximum damage, and it heals Darius for 12% of his missing health, for 15% of his missing health. And it does so for every single champion hit. So if you hit 1 champion, it heals for 50% of missing health. 2 champions, it heals for 30. And it does this up to 3 champions, so 45% health. And Darius's auto Q also heals if you hit jungle camps, right? So if you Q jungle camps, Darius also heals off of them. So you can do very cheeky things if you're in a fight by positioning in a way where you hit both the enemy and the jungle camp. Or if you're, taking a lot of poke in lane, you can go and Q the camp and get some healing, right? One thing you don't want to do is let the champion basically walk into you so that they're not hit by the outer end. Because the inner thing of Darius's Q does not do that much damage. It does 35% damage. It does way less damage. And it also does not activate his passive, right? As you can see, if we hit someone with the outer Q, they have a stack on them. But if he hits someone with the inner Q, they don't have a passive, right? That guy got hit by the outer Q. W. Now, W seems to be a very simple ability, but this is the ability that's going to be involved in every one of our combos. It really just strings together all of his abilities. His W is an auto attack reset, so it's basically like a super ability, right? A super auto attack. So it buffs up his next auto attack so that it does more damage, and it slows the enemy by 90% for 1 second. When I said it's an auto attack reset, what I mean is that if you just do an auto attack, instead of waiting for the next auto attack, you can just do auto W, right? So W comes out instantly, basically. So yeah, instead of just doing if you're in a fight, instead of just doing W, do auto W. Now there is a special interaction with W and Q where you can kind of cancel the animation of Q with the animation of W with Q. So if you do auto W Q like that, you can cancel the animation W and land Q. Okay? One more thing about W, and I have minions turned off so I can't really show this to you, but basically if you kill a target with W, it gives you back its mana, and it reduces its cooldown by 50%, right? So it basically puts this on a way lower cooldown, and the general idea in lane is to farm with W, right? So when you have to kill 2 minions at once, you want to use your W to its maximum effect. RE. Now this ability is very, very important on Darius because it basically allows us to put champions in positions where we can more easily hit our Qs, more easily combo them, and it's our main source of CC because Darius is very slow, right? He doesn't move around that much. So because we can't get to champions, we have our E for basically bringing the champions to us. So what does the E do? Passively, it gives us 35% armor penetration. Basically, no matter what are you doing, whether this is up or not, we always have our 35% armor pen, right? The active is an AoE pull, so it pulls everybody in the area, right? So if I can pull multiple people with this, if I just position myself in a way. So yeah, he pulls everyone in the area, and they basically are pulled. They hit his chest and they're bounced back, right? So they're kind of knocked up too. After they're knocked up and they're knocked back in front of him, right? They're also slowed by 50% for 1 second, by 40% for 1 second, right? So it's a very nice way to guarantee your Q to just pull someone and to Q them, right? As you can see, I hit the Q before the airborne thing went off. And to do this, you basically have to do E insta Q, EQ. instead of like mashing Q after you do your E, right? While you're doing that, make sure you input no movement commands because that kind of messes up with the buffering. So this ability can be done like, you know, can be used to basically cancel abilities, cancel dashes, and it's basically how we beat most of these hard bruiser matchups, right? So proper use of E is very, very useful. And if you want to know what specific matchups to do what tricks with E, I have my mobile fire guide, which I will link in the description. And in that guide, I have a matchup section, which is like basically the most detailed one you'll see for Darius. And in that matchup section, I have all the tricks you need for all the lanes where you can do with your E, where you should do with your E, and way more tips. So go check that out. And yeah. The best ability that Darius has is Noxian Guillotine. What's his item? What does his ability do? Basically, it does a certain amount of true damage based on the person you click, right? Like just an amount of true damage. Now, what basically happens with his stacks is that every time you have a stack on a person, the amount of damage the ultimate does increases by 20%. So with no stacks is 200. With one stack, it's, you know, a bit more, right? It's supposed to be just 240, but because I have Conquer, it's messing with the damage numbers, right? Now, keep in mind, when we have 5 stacks, we have more AD thanks to our passive, right? And his ultimate scales off of AD. So if we have a 5-stack passive, we can ult for 600 damage, right? So we did 200 with no stacks, and 600 with all of our stacks. And it indicates in, like, right there, that to a max of 558, and we do 600 because of Conquer, right? So Conquer kind of messed with our calculations again, but try to use that number there for the most part, right? So you basically want to make sure that you, like, ult targets once you get 5 stacks, so you can get the most damage out of ultimate, unless they're low enough to the point where you can just kill them with your ultimate. If they're 200 HP or lower, then just ult them to kill them. Because if you kill someone with ultimate, you instantly get Noxian Might, right? Our passive, the one that gives us a ton of AD. So you don't actually need to stack it up anymore. So if you see a low health target in a team fight, or your enemy is very low, then you just ult them instantly, get that kill, get the Noxian Might. And the sick thing about ultimate is that if you kill someone with it, right? If they're about to die and you kill them with it, you get it back, right? So you can use this ability and your passive to basically just murder everyone, right? That's just a demonstration of some combos, but you can basically use ultimate, passive, and everything to just slaughter teams once you get your 5 stacks. But that's the thing about Darius. You have to basically get your 5 stacks through manually working through like a person, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or by one-shotting someone with your combo and ulting them when they're low, or getting someone who your team bursts and then ulting them, right? As usual, I have a way detailed combo guide that I've released. I'll put the link to it, and it has all the combos and mechanical things that you need on Darius, so check that out if you want to improve your mechanics on Darius. As a bonus tip, you can also stride break in the middle of your Q, right? Only do properly. So yeah, stride breaker is usually used to extend our range for our E, right? Or to chase someone down without using our E, but you can also use it during the middle of your Q to combo someone or to wave clear, whatever you need it for. The last thing that is a bit more advanced is, it's basically like a trick that we do on Darius, but basically sometimes if you ult a target and then ult attack them after, you can basically get a reset for your ultimate, and the game will treat it like you killed them with your, like, you know, ultimate, right? When you kill them in an action with your auto attack. So if you have high attack speed, and someone's about to die, and you ult, auto attack, then you get your ult back. Now, it's very difficult for me to display this here because I have no target to try it on. So I'm going to leave a link to, or actually I'll just link it up in the video, a video where I break that trick down and I show examples of it and I show you how to do it. So go check that video out for that amazing secret sort of mechanic that only the best Darius players know. For the summoner spells, we're going to be keeping things fairly simple. You just need to take Flash, and you need to take Ghost, right? Flash on Darius is basically the most powerful summoner spell of all of these, because Darius is a very, very immobile champ. So if you want to have any chance of outplaying anyone, any chance of making plays, any chance of basically doing anything in a team fight, you always want to take Flash. Ghost is basically, we take it for the same reason as we take Flash, you know, like to do well in team fights, to crush, you know, people in lane, etc, 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 right? So we always want to take Flash and Ghost. Teleport isn't that bad, but basically Ghost is so powerful on top of Flash that taking Teleport basically makes you way weaker than you could be, right? Flash Ghost really makes you like a team fighting monster where you can't be kited, you can't be stopped, and if you play correctly mechanically, then you'll basically kill everyone. If you take Teleport, you'll help your team out a bit more, but you'll have way less carry potential on your own, right? Ignite is horrible. I'll leave a link to a video I made on why Ignite is bad. Go check it out if you need a more detailed explanation, but Ignite is just bad, bad, bad. Darius does not need it, and if you rely on Ignite to get kills in lane, stop it, because, you know, getting kills on Ignite Darius is like the easiest thing in the game, right? It's so free. But if you just learn how to use Ghost and get a bit of skill, you can still get those kills, right? But instead of having like a free kill button, you have a free kill an entire team button. So, you know, just learn how to do Flash Ghost. That's it for the summoner spells. For the runes, we're going to keep it simple by only addressing the 2 pages that we are going to be using most of the time, right? Our primary tree is the same for both trees: Conquer, Triumph. Alacrity and Tenacity is preference. You know, you take Alacrity into, like, most games, but if they have a lot of CC on their team, like Leona, Sejuani, some of those messed up tanks, you know, Kennen, then you take Tenacity, right? Which one you take depends on the enemy team that you're going up against. And to the newer players out there, I highly recommend having like one page that you have that you change before you go into every game. Never have one rune page that you take into every game. That is a horrible idea, right? We only had to do that before because we could not change runes on Champs League, but we can do that right now. So there's literally no reason to work only with one rune page, like for every game, I mean. So what you do is you grab one page, and once every champion is selected on both teams, then you open the rune page, you set all of the runes again, right? And then you go into your game, right? It's like you prepare mentally for the next game by planning what you need, right? So if they have CC, take Tenacity. If they don't have CC, or if they have CC, but, you know, you can avoid it, or, you know, you don't really care about it, then go Alacrity. Then we get Last Stand for our last rune, right? So this tree is pretty much the same for both two of our, you know, pages. The secondary tree is either Sorcery or Resolve, right? Sorcery is a tree with way more carry potential, way more kill potential, and basically makes you a lot stronger in terms of making plays, right? So if you're a mechanically gifted Darius player, right, or, you know, you're just like, you're basically way better mechanically than your peers in your rank, then you want to be going Sorcery most of the time, right? Nimbus Cloak is a must. This is a rune that basically gives us all that I talked about. It is an amazing, like, you know, it's an amazing rune, not a keystone. It makes Flash stronger, it makes Ghost stronger. It's an amazing, like, you know, rune. Take it, right? Here, it's like all of these smaller runes are kind of bad, but it's a choice between Transcendence and Celerity, right? Celerity gives us more move speed, which lets us make more plays, etc. Whereas Transcendence gives us more ability haste, which means we get our Q up faster, we get our E up faster, W up faster, and on level 11, it gives us an ability of, you know, every time you kill a champ, the cooldown of your other abilities are reduced by 20%, which sounds good on paper, but, like, it honestly rarely comes into play. So, like, all of them are bad, but these two are the least bad. So take whichever one you're comfortable with, because it's a purely preference thing, right? And that is our secondary tree for one of our pages. The other tree is basically with Resolve, and Resolve you can use much more of the runes. You can basically use everything except Font of Life and Shield Bash. And if you're a beginner Darius player, you want to be taking Resolve, because Resolve basically makes us, like, gives us more stats. So it's better to just, you know, fight out somebody, and we don't have to really do much outplaying, right? If you're in a favorable matchup, or if you're confident, you take Demolish, right? Because Demolish basically makes it so that once you get a kill, you can basically take a turret plating, like, just off of just one kill. So it basically increases the value of every kill from 300 to 460, provided you get the plate, and even more because you get the more minions than your opposing top laner, right? For the rest of these runes, for this row for example, if you're up against a bruiser that you have to fight a lot, like Renekton, Jax, maybe Riven, Fiora, etc, 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 then bone plating is a must. Now keep in mind, earlier game, when you don't really have your CC abilities to force the enemy into an all-in, they're going to be able to take it off of you quite easily, so bone plating isn't really going to be useful until basically level 3 or 4, right? So, yeah, but after that point, it allows you to take a lot of damage in some of these fights. So it's a very, very good rune for the bruisery matchups or some of the tough, matchups where you fight a lot. If you're up against a ranged champion or like a matchup where you get poked a lot, then you should take Second Wind, right? Or a matchup that has a lot of sustain maybe, right? Second Wind is very, very good because you're going to be buying D-Shield, and your Second Wind plus D-Shield gives us so much sustain that you can basically afford to take more than one auto attack's worth of damage when you go for CS and then you get poked. So it's a very, very good rune for passive lanes. Conditioning is great into free tank lanes. So let's say Sion or Maokai, or lanes where you don't really need anything extra. Normally against these lanes, sorcery would be better because you can just kill them, get fed, and outplay everyone. But in case you're newer and you're not that confident, then you can go for conditioning because the amount of armor and magic resist this gives is very, very good. So it's like 9 armor and magic resist, and then it gives us a 5% extra. So if you're going for the full tank build, which I'll get into, like with, Gargoyle Stoneplate, then it's very, very great. Now, from these three, Overgrowth is probably the least useful, but you mostly want to take this if you just want more health, or obviously. This doesn't really give us much utility, but if you just want more stats, you can go with Conditioning and Overgrowth together to be a bit more tanky, but the utility of these two runes are way better, right? Unflinching is very, very good combined with Legend Tenacity because this gives you a ton of tenacity, right? But if you get into games where you want that attack speed for your opposing top laner, but the enemy team have a lot of tenacity, a lot of CC, then you can actually take Alacrity, but make up for it by going for Unflinching. The amount of tenacity you're going to get is not going to be nearly as much, but at least you're going to get some tenacity from your runes to make up for, basically where you're not going to have in here, right? So try to make up for the tenacity here if you want to take attack speed instead. Revitalize is very, very great for a shield-based build, right? I'm going to be explaining our shield-focused build in the items section, and if you're going for that shield-focused build, Revitalize is very, very strong because when we're doing our Sterak's shield, it's already 15% stronger because Sterak's shield comes into play when you're below 30, whereas Revitalize is stronger when you're below 40. And also, if you use Gargoyle Stoneplate properly, then that shield is improved also. So Revitalize is very, very strong for a shield-focused build if you're not really that confident about outplaying everyone. So I've explained all the runes that there are. If I missed something, then you should go check out my detailed rune explanation video, which I'll link in the top. And yeah, for the stats, always take attack speed here. And for these two, you can take either damage and armor if you get up against AD Bruiser, double MR if you're up against Cassiopeia or Heimer, double armor if you're up against Riven, Pantheon, or some sort of these hard AD matchups. Or you can just take HP and whichever one you want when you're not sure who you're going to be up against, so just to be safe, right? If they have two champions, both of which who can play top lane, then you can take, HP, but then resistances of the ones you're going to get as top lane so that, you still have something for the lane. Anyway, if you want more details, go check out the rune video. Let's get moving on to the next section. Alright, now we are getting to our items. Keep in mind that this item guide is not the same item guide that I have in my detailed item explanation video, right? The item guide in that video is more focused on diversifying builds and basically explaining to you every single build that you can go. But this item you set is going to be every single build that you should go. So I'll have the code for this in the description for you to copy and paste. But let me just explain to you our items for Darius. So for beginner items, you can go D-Shield or D-Blade, and you go these based on the lane. So if you're up against a bruiser that you have to fight, that you can all-in a lot, or if you're confident in lane, like against a tank or something, then you can go D-Blade. And the great part about D-Blade is that if you're in like a rough lane, like a Jax or like a Kled, you can basically go back to base and buy a second D-Blade so that you have a lot of stats and can actually just straight up murder them in the next all-in. If you're up against a lane where you're not confident, or a lane that, you know, that's a ranged champion basically, then you can go D-Shield. Keep in mind that D-Blade works very well into some matchups, but it doesn't work that well into some matchups, whereas D-Shield works well into essentially everyone. So if you're not really sure what to build, then just go D-Shield, because D-Shield works very, very well with Darius. It works in all the bruiser matchups because these bruisers want to take short trades with you, and D-Shield basically helps their short trades become worse by healing up the damage. It's better, way better against the ranged top laners and pokers, and against some of these, you know, tank champions, I guess. It's not that much better, but at least it helps you to deal with some of their pokes. So it's good from that front, I guess. Good. We have to take, you know, health potions as well, and our wards. And in this block, I've also included some of the consumables you're going to have, and blue ward and red trinket. Now, to shortly explain, if you're playing more solo, and if you're split pushing more, and you're basically playing for the enemy to come to you, then get Farsight Alteration, so that if the enemy are rotating through the jungle, you can put the ward down and see if they're coming so you can prepare for the fight, or you can just flee and pull them to you so that your team can do the objective, right? But if you're more so playing for team fights, you're more so working with your team, and you're playing a very, very flank-heavy playstyle, then Oracle is way better, right? So you want to Oracle wars for your team. If they have stealth champions or like trap-based champions like Shaco Timo, then you're gonna have to use this to track them. And also, if you're going for a flank, right? If the team fight starts and you're going for an alternate route to get to the enemy backline, then Oracle Lens is great because you just activate it and you're basically not seen by wards, except if it's like a pink ward, or a control ward rather. Refillable pot is always good for Darius if you have just a bit of gold and you have nothing to spend it on, because it gives us a lot of sustain, it gives us a good amount of HP regen for fights, and it's generally like a nice thing to have because it, like, let's say you're about to die, this refillable potion basically makes it so that you don't die. So it's also great because, like, if you buy it earlier on in lane, then you're going to be able to use it a lot and get a lot of uses out of it. So it's better than just buying many potions. Control wards are important, right? You almost always want to buy control wards in your games and place them around whenever you can. So keep in mind that you should buy control wards whenever you can and place them. And because Darius is such a strong champion, you can basically have a better chance of protecting your control wards than most other top laners. So those are our basic items and our consumables and our vision items. Let's get to our rush items. Now these are the items that you'll want to rush earlier on, right? So we have our components for Stridebreaker, the Iris Spike Whip if you need more, you know, AD and if you need more wave clear. We have our Hearthbound Axe if you're fighting someone where, like, you know, they're kind of hard to chase down, so you need that extra move speed. And Kindle Gem, which basically works into everyone, right? A Kindle Gem rush is very, very good into tougher matchups, into matchups where you need health, and into, like, you know, Kindle Gem basically works against anybody, so if you're not sure, just start with Kindle Gem. And honestly, I prefer starting the Stridebreaker with Kindle Gem because the part about Phage from the last season that I loved was the HP, and these two guys don't give HP, so I love starting Kindle Gem. Now, into some tougher lanes, you might need to start itemizing against them specifically, right? So that's what the rest of these items are here for. Because with Darius, it's more important to guarantee that you win lane first, then you can go for Stridebreaker and your other items, right? So these items are here for just that, to guarantee that you win lane. Merc boots, that you're not going to be buying these first versus some of our tough AP matchups because of Negatron Cloak, but Mercury Treads is very, very good on top of this item. It's kind of like building Steel Caps and then, Bramble Vest. If you're up against like a very, very tough AP matchup like Cassio, Heimer, I would say Kennen, but Kennen's honestly like a very free matchup. So, or Rise, I guess, then you're going to be wanting to go these two items. For Kennen and Rise specifically, you only want to go Mercury Treads because they're more CC reliant, right? They don't have the damage to kill you. They just want to basically slow you down and whittle you away from like range slowly by slowly, right? And Merc Treads basically helps against those two champions. Whereas for more like, damage-based AB champs like Heimer, for Cassiopeia, Rumble, for example, then you might want to go Negatron Cloak. This item is very, very nice. It's 900 gold for 50 magic resist, which is a lot. So this item is our go-to for a lot of these AP matchups, right? Spectre's Cowl is also another option for AP matchups. And this is basically working very well if you're playing against these AP matchups, but you aren't wanting to all-in them, right? This item works way better if you're putting yourself in a position to all-in them, whereas Spectre's Cowl works if you just want to chill and CS a bit and keep HP and wait for a jungler, right? And it also works especially well against Poison, so Cassiopeia and Teemo, for those champions, Spectre's Cowl is amazing. Now for the rest of the items. Quicksilver Sash, you don't want to get this like as a first item rush because it's not that efficient, right? It's 1,300 gold, which is better spent on this or like, something else. So this is the item, you're going to be getting this after basically Strikebreaker, right? But Quicksilver Sash helps against Mordekaiser, it helps against champions and teams with a lot of CC, and against suppressions like Malzahar or Warwick, so you mostly want to buy this if you're up against the right kind of team with a lot of CC and suppressions, and also Mordekaiser, so that you can actually fight in team fights instead of being stuck in his ult. But for the most part, you're not building Quicksilver Sash very early on. Plated Steel Caps is basically the item you're going to be building the most, right? Against any sort of AD matchup that does any auto attacks or doesn't even do auto attacks, like is mostly like, ability based like Jace, maybe Pantheon, you want plated steel caps or ninja tabis, whatever you call them. These items are a must versus all AD champs, all bruisers, all of them. Just get this item because it makes our lives so much easier. The thing about these champions is that Darius doesn't actually outdamage them. So if you just go straight up and 1v1 them, they're going to kill you because they have way more damage, right? Darius has to work for his damage, whereas these champions just have their damage. And plated steel caps, like, basically gives us, like, releases us from a lot of headache because these items gives us so much tankiness that it basically, like, into some lanes like Kled, you just, like, wait for plated steel caps and he basically can't kill you anymore. Executioner's Calling is for those healer champions like Aatrox, Mundo, who basically refuse to die. And you can also take this into Fiora if you've beaten her and already have steel caps, right? Bramble Vest, not Thornmail. Bramble Vest is the item you want to go versus basically Fiora, right? Or if you lose, like, lane, you can also take it into Aatrox, I guess. And you also take it into every single one of these Bork abusers, right? So you also take it into Wukong, also take it into Jax, and anybody else who usually builds Bork. You basically cannot 1v1 a Bork user without both plated steel caps and the Bramble Vest. Now the thing with Darius this season is that he's way less 1v1 reliant and way more teamfight reliant. So it doesn't even... If you're not like counting on 1v1ing these Bork users, maybe you don't even need this item, right? Just go plated steel caps and build for the team fight with these rest of these items. But, if you do have to, if it's still laning phase, or if you're planning on beating them in a split push in a side lane, then definitely go for these two, right? The best items, right? So I'm going to actually move this down. Move this up. Yes, okay. So, here is our best items. I updated a little bit from my previous item guide, But Stridebreaker is the best mythic item in the game for Darius. Even though they nerfed it, it's still amazing. It's good. It does everything Darius wants. It has all the stats we need. So Stridebreaker is just an amazing, amazing item. So get it, right? There is no other choice. If you're going anything else, then it's a preference thing, right? It works in certain situations, but Stridebreaker is the best. It's already been agreed upon. So yeah, it's an amazing item. Sterix Gauge, it was one of our fan favorite items from the last season, the season before that, and it's making a comeback. Sterix Gauge is a team fighting monster. It's an amazing item. It saves us when we need it to, and it's better than it was last season for team fights. Though it's not that good for 1v1s anymore, it's still it's still a factor, right? And it doesn't give as much damage, but the shield is way more. It makes us way tankier, and it gives us a lot of HP regen, or healing, I guess, because the Bloodlust passive is seen as healing instead of HP regen. But yeah, it basically is a team fighting monster item. Gargoyle Stoneplate is making a return from the last season as an amazing item. Though we can't really abuse it as much as we could from last season, because of basically last season, it just made you tanky on the press of a button, whereas this version needs some stats before, and then it makes you tanky. It's still an amazing item to get third item. It makes you tanky versus everything, and if you're up against a team where you're not really building against one thing, but you're building against basically everything, then this item is your go-to, right? Now I'm going to go through all these items really quickly. Death Stance, great item. It helps you just get tons of multi-kills in team fights. And it's basically great into more AD heavy compositions. You don't want to get this versus AP champions, so keep that in mind. Silvermere Dawn, if you had to buy QSS before, you build this. Deadman's Plate, you mostly want to keep Deadman's Plate until late game, because what you can do with Texas Stridebreaker is sell our boots and replace it with Deadman's Plate. So, late game, you mostly want to, we want to keep Deadman's Plate until late game because, it's essentially the only item that can replace boots. Force of Nature is if you bought this item before. Chempunk Chainsword if you had to buy Executioners before. Black Cleaver if you were up against tanks, a lot of these tanks, if you're up against a annoying tank matchup like, Malphite or Ornn, you want to go Black Cleaver. Randuins is if they have a fed crit user like Yasuo, Yone, or Tristana, Samira, something like that. Spirit Visage is a great item to combo with Gargoyle Stoneplate. So if you're building Gargoyle Stoneplate and you have to build against, AP champions, then Spirit Visage is way better than Force of Nature because it buffs up our shield. You want to get Thor Mail if you've bought Bramble before. And I'll stop recommending that because it's a bit of a complexer item. Here is our full builds that I have, right? I've prepared 3 full builds for you. And here's the basic formula for the builds, right? Stridebreaker, Sterix Gauge, and then we have our 1 item slot we can either dedicate to a tank item or we can dedicate it to a damage item, like a damage utility item like Death Stance, Chempunk Chainsword, Silvermere Dawn, something like that. And after that, we have 2 more tank items, right? And this is not counting the fact that we have boots, right? So, we have 5 items, right? 2 of the core items, then, 1 mix, and then 2 tank items. So all of these builds follow that rule, right? So the full sort of Rhoku Special, I call it, the full movement speed build. And this is a build you go basically when you're so fed that you can just walk over the enemy team, right? You just destroy them whatever you do. You're so high level that they can't even damage you. So this build makes it so that they can't escape you at all, and you just run them down and you mercilessly kill them. This build, I also have weird names for all of them. I came up with them, I guess. Here's our shield focus build that I alluded to. Here is our Stridebreaker, Sterix Gauge, Death Stance, Gargoyle Stoneplate, and Spirit Visage. What this build is focusing on is basically keeping you in a fight. The longer you are in a fight, you're basically going to be in the fight for the whole duration because you have 2 shields that will buff you up and bring you back into the fight every time you're close to dying. You have Spirit Visage, which every time you get a kill, it's going to increase your healing on it. Our Death Stance healing is going to be increased, Triumph healing is going to be increased. And the best part about Death Stance, combined with the shield max build, is that if you're getting kills and you have the shield, you can basically heal up your health while the enemy is trying to take it down with your shield, right? Let's say you're in a fight, you have 5 stacks, and they chunk you out, but then you have a Starix shield, right? Then you get 1 kill, and your Starix shield they're trying to kill your Starix shield, but you've basically healed up to half HP because you're getting kills because of Death Stance, right? And then they're gonna chunk you down again. Then boom, Gargoyle Stone Plate activated, and then that's another shield that you can basically have time to heal up your health by getting kills, right? So this build is very, very good if the fights are super long but you're fed. Here is the Unstoppable Force build, where it's basically a full tank build, right? This build makes you super, super tanky, so it basically attributes our mix slot to a tank item, right? The order of the builds are in the order that I've put them in, so if you have this set, if you copy and paste it into your item set section, then you should have it the right order, right? So a few things to note. If you want a way more detailed analysis of these, I'm going to have my item breakdown linked up somewhere, and also I'm going to have a tutorial linked up that basically is like a guide on how to set up the item sets. It's from last season, but the client is the same from last season, and how to do the items is the same, so I'm going to leave a link to both of those videos up in the card, so go check them out if you need to know how that works. That is pretty much it for this video. I hope it wasn't too long, and I also hope that it was helpful to those who watched it. This is all you need to basically crush the new season with Darius, but this isn't the only Darius content I have. This video is going to be the first video in my full Season 11 Darius Master Course. I don't know, I just called it that. Basically, this playlist will have all of the sick Darius videos, all the sick Darius guides, and also all the guides that I'll be linking in this video. So if you want to just fully master Darius to the maximum, then go watch that playlist one by one. Each video is like 30-40 minutes, so maybe you shouldn't watch it all in one go, unless you have a lot of free time. But yeah, go check out the playlist, it's on my channel. And this video will also be in that playlist, so you can actually, click on the playlist and start it at the end of this video, which is now. So yeah, go check that out for way, way more Darius content. But this now is the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Rhoku, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. Peace out.